Attorney General hits back at Havilah Cabo over Gulf governor status. More support for the disbanding of police reserve units. And calls for PNG to take the lead for West Papua's inclusion in the Melanesian Spearhead Group.
This is National EMTV News with Mary Bartulo.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us for Saturday's news. Attorney General Ano Pala has condemned actions of convicted Gulf Governor Havilah Cabo. Cabo, who is out on bail, maintains that he is still the governor. However, in a letter to the convicted governor, the Attorney General said that whilst Cabo is still a member of parliament, he cannot perform the role of governor. Pala added that Havilah Cabo was ill-advised by his lawyers.
The Attorney General Ano Pala made these comments following Cabo's public appearance in the media as Gulf Governor. Pala stated in his letter that he cited a media statement in January and a letter to the Assembly Clerk in December 2014 that stated that since Cabo filed an appeal by operations of Section 103 of the Constitution, he would continue to remain as Member of Parliament. But Pala said this section of the Constitution only preserves Cabo as a Member of Parliament and clearly not as Governor. He said Cabo's current status is that he is a convicted person and prisoner of the state, and on bail his lawyers failed to explain clearly to Cabo his status. This means Cabo's current status under Section 27(1)(b) and (c) of the Constitution, which states that a person to whom this division applies has a duty to conduct himself in such a way, both in his public or private life and his associations with other persons, as not B, to demean his position, or C, to allow his public or office integrity to be called into question, becomes relevant in this matter. The Attorney General clarified that Cabo's appeal to the Supreme Court challenging the conviction, sentence and resultant operations of Sections 103 of the Constitution preserves him as a member and does not extend to the position as Governor of Gulf. This is because the issue of disqualification as governor is addressed by the organic law on provincial and local level governments. A copy of the letter sent to the convicted governor will also be sent to the Assembly Clerk of Gulf Provincial Government, advising them to call a provincial assembly meeting in accordance with relevant applicable law, taking into account the Assembly's standing orders, and elect an acting governor. However, if Cabo's plea is successful, then he will resume office as governor. Tekla Gunga, National EMTV News.
A former police superintendent has supported calls for the disbanding of reserve police units. Ben Simanjon says these reserve units are unconstitutional as they do not serve the interest of the state.
Simanjon, with a police background of over 20 years, says most police reservist units also lack proper training, reporting systems and structures to assist regular police.
The current arrangements with NCDC and BSP reserves do not in any way fall within or have a structure.
Simanjon's support follows Police Commissioner Jeffrey Vaki and his deputy Jim Andrews to disband reserve units serving commercial and corporate entities.
As far as BSP and NCDC reserves are concerned, their duties as far as providing security to BSP and enforcing the boy ban do not in any way fall within the descriptions of the functions of the police force under Section 197 of the Constitution.
Police should not involve in municipalities or bylaws of a council.
Although a verbal order has been given by the police hierarchy to dissolve the reserve units from NCDC and Bank South Pacific, an official notice is yet to be served. And that's exactly what NCD Governor Powis Parkip is waiting on to officially relinquish NCDC's reserve unit.
Until such time we get a formal notice from the Commissioner. That's how government conducts business, and that's how I'm going to conduct business in respect of this particular matter.
The outspoken NCD governor also warned the police hierarchy against the knee-jerk reaction to disband police units.
If we use this criteria that every time a police unit gets into a problem, do some illegal activity or exceed their powers, and we use that criteria to shut down a police unit, I tell you, there won't be any police unit in Papua New Guinea anymore.
However, former Police Superintendent Ben Simonjohn is adamant that the said reserve units do not fall within the boundaries of the Police Force Act 1998. Furthermore, this week, Police Commissioner Jeffrey Vaki announced that an official police gazette will be released next week, effectively disbanding the NCDC as well as the BSP Police Reservist units. Tokana Hasavi Jr., National MTV News.
Temporary appointments have been announced for the positions of provincial administrators in 3 provinces. According to Secretary for the Department of Personnel Management, John Kali, these appointments are for East Sepik, Sundown and Western provinces. Secretary Kali says these appointments will go before the proper selection process as required under the Public Service Management and Administration Act 2014. Fabian Hakalitz reports.
In East Sepik, the provincial administrator's position is vacant. The incident happened after the acting administrator, Otto Ganai, took a court order restraining the national government from making any new appointments.
The Governor and the PEC recommended for a fresh acting appointment. So the former acting administrator then took the matter to court, restraining the PEC and the government from making a fresh appointment, stating that he wanted to continue.
In Sundown, the sidelining of provincial administrator Henry Nom is improper because of the procedures involved dealing with allegations against him. Any serious allegation against the administrator, contracts and law requirements is that the governor must state the labeled allegations and ask for a response.
This was not done, so I want to advise the governor that Henry Norman is still the provincial administrator. He's not sidelined. He will continue to be the administrator. But I suggest if there are allegations against him, you follow the process that I have outlined in my letter to you.
The appointment of Western Province Acting Administrator Dr. Modawa Gumoy has expired. However, he will continue to remain in office.
And I have encouraged the governor, because the appointment has lapsed, acting appointment has lapsed, I wanted to consult with him urgently to consider getting a fresh appointment.
All positions will be advertised and go through proper selection procedure for final substantive appointments. Fabian Hakalitz, National MTV News.
You're watching National MTV News. Among stories after the break, a desperate plea from the 2 Australians on death row in Indonesia. Stay with us. Welcome back to the news. West Papua freedom activist Fred Mambrasa says Papua New Guinea must take the lead to push for West Papua's inclusion in the Melanesian Spearhead Group. With the government now calling for more support against the brutality and oppression of West Papuans, Mambrasa says the fight for freedom in West Papua must be a fight for Melanesian countries.
For over 60 years, the fight from oppression has destroyed the lives of many West Papuans. Moreover, the call by the government to grant citizenship for West Papuan refugees in the country has given West Papuans like Fred Mambrasa a sense of freedom. With an estimation of over 10,000 West Papuan refugees living in all corners of the country, Mambrasa says PNG must now share the struggle for West Papua freedom.
Mipla must now Mipla must try and talk strong lo Papua New Guinea now. Mipla must make him struggle below West Papua and belong Papua New Guinea.
In the meantime, he says the Melanesian Spearhead Group, or MSG, a group set to spearhead regional issues amongst Melanesian countries, is still their way towards the United Nations.
Time igolo UN now, by Vanuatu one tasol by Tok, but all also all country lo Malaysia, how much per country also all stop inside penis. And so Mipla got how much per country. Only stop West Papua tasol, but also all get a country along Melanesia only on behalf of West Papua only talk long UN.
For Papua New Guinea, Mambrasa says the country must take the lead to push West Papua into the MSG.
Campaign belum apply strong long outside, strong penis. But only problem belong mipla now long Melanesian region. Now big problem only long Papua New Guinea.
Stanley Over Jr., National EMTV News.
Turning overseas now, and the 2 Australians on death row in Bali have written a desperate letter to the Indonesian government begging for their lives. The men say they want to continue their good work inside prison after their final bid for a judicial review was rejected.
Raji Sukumaran has been making this visit to Korobakan prison every day for nearly 2 weeks. But today's would have been tougher than most, burdened with the news that her eldest son's last legal hope of avoiding the firing squad was rejected by a Bali court last night.
The families are certainly finding this particularly hard because it's a kind of a brutal reality that they're dealing with now.
The clerk of Denpasar District Court delivered the rejection letters to Andrew Chan and Mayuran Sukumaran this morning, but the pair countered almost immediately with a desperate handwritten letter to the government delivered by a local priest begging for their lives.
We beg for moratoriums so we can have a chance to serve to Indonesian community and bring more benefit on the rehabilitation process in prison. We believe in Indonesian legal system.
The pair's lawyers say they are determined to keep fighting, searching for any more legal options available.
None of us have given up hope. You know, where there's life, there's hope.
The government too continues its quiet but urgent diplomacy behind the scenes.
The Australian government has left no stone unturned to try to ensure that these 2 Australians on death row have their sentences commuted. We've left no stone unturned.
The reality is that any day now, these 2 young Australians could receive the news that the Indonesian government has named the date, and they have 3 days to say their final goodbyes before facing the firing squad.
A critical error by one of the pilots could have caused the fatal TransAsia plane crash in Taiwan. Black box data has revealed that as one engine failed, the remaining engine was accidentally switched off.
New pictures show just how close TransAsia Flight 235 came to crashing into high-rise apartments. While the pilots have been praised for averting an even bigger disaster, data from the crippled plane's black boxes shows they may have made a fatal mistake. We can only say, according to the data, the fuel was cut, says this air safety official. Who did it or what the reason was, we don't know. It's something to be discussed. After radio acknowledgement that the ATR-72 was airborne, 5 seconds later with the plane at 1,200 feet, the crew realises there's trouble. At 10 seconds, a warning light, as the right-hand engine apparently flames out and loses thrust. But for some reason, the crew then shuts down the left engine, which had been running properly, leaving the plane without power.
It sure looks like there's some serious pilot error here that actually induced a mishap that did not need to happen.
After 2 fatal crashes in less than a year, the airline has now ordered its pilots to submit to flight skills tests. The grief-stricken mother of pilot Liao Chin Chung described her son as selfless. And as Taiwan's president visited survivors to hand them envelopes with compensation, more incredible escape stories. 2-year-old Lin Ji Yao is seen here in his father's arms, waiting for rescue.
When we pulled him out, he was already in the water for 3 to 5 minutes. I instinctively started to clear his airway and then performed CPR on him. I kept giving him CPR until he recovered and gained consciousness before we tried to get out of the wreckage.
The pair had swapped seats, moving down the back to sit near the boy's mother. That decision almost certainly saved their lives.
You're watching National EMTV News. All our sporting action is up next in Trukai Sports. I'll bring you the details after the break.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. In round 6 of the Ipatas Cup today, the 0-1 Titans and Wow Brothers match was marred by handling errors beginning in the first half. But crowd favourites 0-1 Titans scored 14 points to 6, edging in front of Wow Brothers at half-time. The full-time score was 34 points to 6, the 0-1 Titans proving too strong. In other matches, Blue Heelers beat Kamkumung Crushers 10 points to 6. Round 7 will be held tomorrow, followed by presentations. The Weightlifting Federation today conducted club trials at the High Performance Centre in Port Moresby. Under the watchful eyes of Oceania General Secretary Paul Kofa and Weightlifting President John Dawanikura, the athletes performed their best, hoping to be selected in the Pacific Games team. Havilah Cabo caught up with the female weightlifters today.
The High Performance Training Centre hosted the weightlifting trials this morning. A number of excited female lifters hoping to make it into the squad for the 2015 Games competed in the respective weight categories. The youngest and a future prospect was 10-year-old Simon Davanikura, who lifted 25 kilograms. Commonwealth gold medalist Dika Toa also took part in the competition in her 53-kilogram division. She clean snatched 60 kilograms in her first attempt and 65 kilograms in her last attempt, which also came with a big smile to prove her confidence. Gubahale, who is ranked #1 in the Oceania region in the 69 kilograms, also snatched 75 to 80 kilograms impressively. Aspiring talents in the likes of Connor Toa, Bernadette Dokodo, Sherman Michael, and Eden Kambai all impressed the judging panel. Oceania weightlifting boss Paul Kofa and President Sir John Dawanikura were also impressed with today's turnout. Havilah Cabo, National EMTV Sports.
To soccer now, and round 3 of the National Soccer League saw a huge doubleheader in Port Moresby, with home side FC Port Moresby in dominant form over Madang. In the earlier match, Oro FC recorded their first win of the season, defeating Admiralty in a close encounter. Jeremy Mogi was at the games.
Oro FC had to wait until the second half before a single goal by Jacob Sebua from the midfield ensured a 1-0 victory over Admiralty FC. Now, it wasn't smooth sailing for both sides. In fact, the referee had to be called in a couple of times because of infringements by both sides. Now, in the second match of the doubleheader down here in Port Moresby, FC Port Moresby had been leading 1-0. That goal coming as early as the 3rd minute by Felix Bondeluk, before Madang equalized in the dying stages of the game to ensure a 1-1 draw.